Hey everybody, I'm Tony, and yesterday was Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, WWDC for short. A lot of the changes that are coming to iOS, well, basically your iPhone, are going to be really similar to those found on current Android devices. One of them being the app library. This is similar to Android's app drawer. If you have pages of apps you just don't use constantly or forgot they're even there, you will be able to hide those pages with all the folders or applications. And iOS will basically make a page where they're found in a bunch of different folders, with some being the most recently added, games, entertainment, and so forth. And that's basically going to be called the app library. Another feature is widgets. You will now be able to place widgets within your homepage or just any page that you like, with being able to choose from multiple sizes. And it doesn't seem like you'll be able to place the widget just anywhere. I think it's still probably going to follow the rule set of Apple's, where you have to fill in the top spaces before you could go to the bottom. A feature that I think should have been implemented a while back is picture in picture. If you're watching the video, you'll be able to scroll into another app, the home screen, whatever, and you'll still be able to be playing that video on, well, you can arrange it anywhere, top, right corner, left, middle, wherever. The next feature is messages. You'll be able to pin your favorite conversations at the very top, and also just like Slack or Telegram, you can reply back to a specific message, and besides replying to that specific message, whatever message you're replying to specifically, you'll be able to open those sets of messages or that thread/feed in its own little pop-up. So you can follow through without all the clutter of all the other spam messages you're getting in your group. Apple Maps was drastically updated, and one of the cooler features is that if you have an electric vehicle, based on the port your vehicle supports, you can plan your route accordingly to be able to maximize the amount of time driving, and depending on how much fuel, quote unquote, you have left. Just like the Pixel phone and Google having Google Translate, Apple is making their own translate application. That way you can basically converse with other people in other languages. So far, I don't remember the exact number, but it looks somewhere around like 12 languages are supported. Probably more to come later on. Well, I can only assume. I mean, why wouldn't they, right? Siri had a user interface overhaul, and instead of taking up your whole screen, she will now only take up a small little portion. That way you are not interrupted whenever you're working on something. And starting in 2021, you'll be able to use car keys, which is what it sounds like. You can save your car's keys to your phone, so you don't need to carry physical keys anymore. And the cool part is that you can also share that virtual car key with your friends and family. You can also set limitations on access, but now it seems that literally everything lives on your phone. But Apple says you don't have to worry that much about theft and, I guess, loss, because you'll still be able to use iCloud to lock that device. AirPods Pro will now be able to support spatial audio, so you can have basically like 3D sound, and it will be based off of whether you're turning your head and if you're moving your phone in a different orientation. Based on the conference, it seems that spatial audio will only be working on AirPods Pro. At least they only kept saying AirPods Pro and didn't mention the baseline AirPods. Thanks to Apple's ecosystem, as soon as you switch to a different Apple device that are paired with your Apple AirPods, they will automatically switch according to the device you're using. The next feature is Apple Clips. Rather than downloading a whole application for one single purchase or a one-time use, applications that support this feature using Apple Pay or sign in with Apple, you'll be able to use that single option one time. It's basically like part of the app, but not the whole app. What was shown is that if you see an electric scooter, those that you can just rent out, rather than downloading the appropriate app, building your user profile, adding your payment device and all that, it will offload only the payment section. That way you can use it and it's only a one-time use. And the last iOS 14 features are basically its improvements to privacy. If you're using an application that is using your microphone or your phone's camera, that will be indicated by the top right corner with an orange colored like dot, which, well, basically represents that the application you're currently using is using one of the two devices. If you want to know specifics of what an application uses or what information about you it collects, if you scroll down in the App Store, the application will now show you what information that app will be collecting from you and what information it will be sharing, if any. iPad OS is essentially getting all of the same updates from iOS 14 for the iPhone, with the exceptions being that now iPad search is now a global search, so it'll be able to search within applications, your folders, and basically the web. And the only additional feature would be improvements to the Apple Pencil, in which you can now scribble, and that scribble will be turned into actual text. And you can also copy and paste those scribbles into any text box. Moving on to the Apple Watch, Watch OS now allows you to have more customization options for watch faces. Not only that, you can also share them with your friends via text messages, or you can download them from pre-existing watch faces from other companies, and likewise. The Apple Watch will now be able to track your sleeping, so display sleeping habits and such. And a feature that I thought was odd, but understandable, is that the Apple Watch will now be able to know whenever you're washing hands. And that will immediately display a countdown timer of 20 seconds. If you finish washing your hands before the timer is up, it will kindly suggest you continue washing your hands so that your hands are washed adequately. All right, and now let's move on to macOS. And, oh, hey, it's a different colored shirt. I guess that's what happens when you end up recording the video and it runs out of memory and doesn't tell you that it ran out of memory with the chime or some sound or anything. Regardless, let's move on to macOS. All the previous updates to macOS have been 10 point something. But now macOS is getting its major update with macOS 11, being called Big Sur. Just like when iOS 8, I believe it was iOS 8 that was transitioned over to iOS 9 on the iPhone. All of the apps got a design change, making them more rounded and cartoony, and that's also what's happening on macOS. All applications are getting more rounded and are having their saturation boosted up, making them look more cartoony in my opinion. But on the bright side is that the applications will look a lot more like their iOS counterparts, which means that the design will be a lot more coherent between Apple's devices. One of the changes that I do like thus far is that the notification center will no longer have that light colored background. It will now be transparent, allowing it to be integrated better with your desktop background. Unlike the control center, which is a new feature that Apple is adding in. This feature I don't like completely just because it looks very mobile-like. It looks like it should have been made for the iPad or iPhone just because it's very big, takes up a lot of space, looks very bubble-like, and I don't know. From someone that's in the tech industry and IT, it just doesn't look like made for a computer. Looks more like, don't get me wrong, it'll probably be a lot better for consumers to be able to use since there won't be a way to mistake in the toggles and buttons for other things. It doesn't look very computer-like. But I guess that's what happens when you're Apple trying to make the whole ecosystem a lot more coherent. And finally, the biggest surprise is that Apple will now be creating their own silicon. What does that mean? Well, basically, it's Apple making their own processors. At the moment, a lot of the Mac machines are using Intel silicon, Intel processors, but with Apple being the ones that create their own silicon, they'll now be able to be the ones that determine when to push updates, how to make performance a lot better, and just, I guess, improve battery life. This will make Apple more responsible for their own machines since now they will basically control every important aspect of it. Apple says that the first Apple Silicon-based machines will be coming out at the end of this year, 2020. But there will still also be Intel options coming out later this year. And even Apple themselves said that they expect the change to be somewhere around 2 years before they transition everything completely to Apple Silicon. But yeah, that's basically all the releases from WWDC 2020. What did you guys think? Did you guys watch the whole conference? Leave it down below. And thanks for watching. That's a cut.